I'm pleased to be joined by our guests and friends from QSC. So welcome Chris, Jatan, and Jason. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Of course.
How are you doing? How are your feet? And how is the
Yeah.
booth setup going?
We're doing
It's-
great.
Yeah.
It's going great. It's organized chaos before this all gets pulled off, but it's
Yes.
going well.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're fired up to have you guys here. Jatan, I'm curious. You've had a chance really to take the reins over at QSC, and obviously last year, if anybody watching this remembers the great conversations, the great announcements happening last year by Joe, who has done a fantastic job as CEO of the company, has transitioned away since then. But, I'm curious, Jatan, what are some of the things that you have from a vision standpoint? A lot has changed in the last year, but how has that vision evolved?
Well, in many ways, like the vision we set out for the full stack AV platform, that continues. And we've been really busy delivering on delivering that full stack AV platform. So a lot of things that you're going to continue seeing from us is that. So having a cloud-first, scalable platform is something that vision continues for us. And then when you think about like some of the things that we have launched over the last year, including our Reflect platform, enhancing that also on our computer vision and vision suite that we have enhanced all the capabilities there. So the whole story about eyes and ears and how the world can actually benefit from the full stack AV platform, we're just continuing on that. And you see some of the testament through our global expansion, as well as the Frost & Sullivan Innovation Award that we recently received. So that continues for us.
And I wanted to touch on, the state of the workplace right now, right? A lot of people are going back, but hybrid work is still here. And, since post-pandemic, things are continuing to evolve. So what challenges are organizations facing in terms of optimizing their space, as well as, improving employee effectiveness?
Yeah. I think, coming a couple years out of the pandemic where everything just got very different, people were doing hybrid work, remote work. Then we've seen a lot of return to office mandates. Some people have decided to stay hybrid. Some people are fully remote. Nobody really knows what's going on, right? But everybody wants to know what's going on. And so I think the real big change now is that organizations are tired of guessing. They want to know, how is your workplace performing? Are people showing up? Are people engaged? Are they being the most productive? There is a lot of opinions out there, but a lot of the customers that we talk to want to just know. And this is really difficult because all these different buildings, every building is a prototype of one. It was created a very different way. But then we have these great, amazing IT tools like Teams and Zoom and Google Meet that are ubiquitously deployed like IT everywhere and that are the same. And marrying up these unique spaces with something that is consistent everywhere is really difficult. And so really thinking about this in the AV industry and what we're trying to do with the full stack concept and platform is trying to break down those silos and collect all that data to get the businesses what they want, and that is that information on how their space is performing.
Jason, a lot of different stakeholders have to be brought in for that conversation, right? You've got AV, you've got IT, you've got facilities management, security. You've got all these different folks that have to have a conversation. And it's been difficult historically for those folks to collaborate and share data. What are some of the best practices and things that you're seeing in the industry, especially that AV is driving forward to help really bridge that gap between those stakeholders?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you probably missed like 5 other stakeholders who are upset right now that you didn't mention them. I'm sure we're going to get a nasty, HR is going to send a nasty email because we forgot someone in that meeting. Those are big, massive meetings to bring together. So, I mean, the very basic advice of bringing everybody to the table stands. But this is where I would think that we can kind of challenge ourselves as the AV industry. And AV has a really unique place to play in this situation, right? You have IT that's driving these consistent deployments everywhere. You have facilities that are managing that building. But then you also have the human element that HR is trying to drive better employee and customer experience. AV is actually uniquely positioned to sit in the middle of that because we can connect into the IT areas. We are definitely there in the facilities, and we're really good at driving amazing experiences. So if we start to morph our conversations and take a bigger seat at the table as an AV industry, to be the ones who can speak that language to the CFOs of what is the performance happening, what are my investments getting to us. I think the key element, back to your question, is we should be, as an industry, driving that group together, and we make sure that we bring all the stakeholders together. I think that's a really powerful opportunity for the AV industry.
That means we have to be unselfish, is what that means.
Yes.
And you guys are always at the forefront and ahead of the curve, and always following, the latest data and trends and so forth. So, Chris, what data trends are you currently seeing in the industry, and how are they influencing smarter space design?
That's a great question. I love that you're using the word data, because for me, if I had to name one trend that's really important this year, it's data. And it's timely too, because there's a whole history of data being collected. As soon as we did AV IT convergence, there's data production that you could sort of peel back the wire and see what's happening between our systems and how they're connected to the cloud. But that really only took us so far. That was really about statistics and performance, right? Performance evaluation. Now with machine learning advances, that data just got tremendously valuable. It's sort of like, I don't know what the analogy is. It's like, automotive just arrived and we were already extracting some oil. And now it got really valuable for really driven outcomes. So for me, data drives everything from design to insights to the user communities that are building and managing facilities, like Jason was saying, to product design. And it's really our call to action to leverage that data as part of that AV pipeline. And we mentioned the platform. That platform can't just view data as an afterthought. You have to engineer the platform to consider it as you go. So it's things like data privacy, consistency, data integrity. How are you managing that data from across different viewpoints and departments that are going to consume that data for different outcomes? And QSC, the platform we're building, is really focused on driving that heritage of data to the cloud so that it's leverageable.
Well, Chris, data quality is obviously part of that conversation, right? Garbage in, garbage out, and
Yes.
especially when we talk about AI, right? You don't want to train models on something that's ineffective.
Yeah.
And then you also brought up the cybersecurity compliance piece, right? That is a conversation we have to be willing to have across industries like healthcare and security, because it's so important for us from a compliance standpoint to know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
What would you say maybe to the AV community who has to go literally to that hospital tomorrow and say, look, here's what you need to know. Here's how we get you better data. Here's how we start integrating these systems. How do you start that conversation?
Yeah, well, the good news is customers and organizations are really excited by what can happen now, and they understand it, that the world of AI and intelligence has arrived, and that we're responsible for wiring up the system to those LLMs. I mean, in one way, you could think about it that all the investments, the hundreds of millions of dollars that go into training like a large LLM, can now be applied to classical AV problems just by making that data flow to those systems. So that's really big. And that drives really interesting outcomes for two communities of users, the facility owner, but also the end users. Because if you can do it in real time, you can drive experiences back into the room that we just used to dream about, right? And you're starting to see the tip of the iceberg, like with the Vision Suite system. That's people tracking in real time, face recognition, to do things that you just couldn't do in the past, or used to be project-oriented. Now they are product-oriented, which is good. They can embed the compliance issues and the security challenges you have there.
Fantastic. And you guys are growing leaps and bounds and able to reach more customers and so forth. So how does the acquisition, I know you just recently acquired Acuity, and how does that acquisition help expand your influence into new buying centers, and what value does that bring to your customers?
Yeah, so Acuity acquired QSC. I wish it was the other way around. But
We got it.
But that's okay. But
I don't know. This feels like
Wait
a
a
press
minute.
release that we're going to
we love
This is news
AV.
to all of us.
we love AV, and the fact that adjacent industries that have existed, they've been watching AV for a while, right? I mean, this is actually an example of somebody who comes from the adjacent industry, looks into the AV, and buys a company like QSC, because AV has, beyond just talking about IT and AV integration, building management. There's a extension within building management systems and what value we could provide. So the story here is that not just extending the buying centers to IT and facilities personas within the end users, but also from the technology standpoint, what value we can actually provide to people in these spaces. So if you think about workplace solutions of tomorrow, there's a lot more possible. Chris referred to the data, of course, that there's a data play here, but then how do you actually harness those data and then bring in insights and things that actually help people in workplaces or different spaces in general? So that's kind of the overall story. So we're super excited about just integrating these technologies and then provide more compelling solutions. We have again, a full stack platform that continue building and leveraging what's possible out there.
You know, Jatan, I've got one more question
Yes.
for you that I want to ask right here. I was on this very show floor 4 months ago at a show called AHR, which is a commercial HVAC
Yes.
show.
Yes.
Full of facilities managers, people complaining about, look, my systems don't work, they don't talk, my ESG and compliance requirements are through the roof, and I don't know how to manage all this different stuff. So you've got these sorts of stakeholders coming into the industry for the first time, and QSC, through the Acuity acquisition, has been able to have those conversations. What I want to ask is, what would you say maybe to people who are hearing about QSC and QSys for the first time that maybe exist outside of our industry?
Very interesting. You mentioned AHR show. In fact, our sister company, This Tech Controls, which is part of our Acuity Intelligence Spaces, was at the AHR show, right? And then they talk about a platform play, again, in how do you create a solution based on a software-based approach and all of that. So this acquisition allows us to actually integrate both sides. You know, these things have existed in silos for very good reasons. And while there's a lot more work to do here, for all those people who are looking at QSys and QSC for the first time, think about us as a platform that's going to continue the capabilities and the reach through a software-based approach, leveraging a very strong set of hardware, and then harness data to bring in insights for workplace solutions.
Well, look, that's the exact conversation that our industry needs to continue to have. And gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank
Huge
you.
plug for QSC, QSys. You guys are doing some incredible work.